other side of the world. We're very excited to have you, and very excited to hear about transparent companies. And so without further ado.
Okay, so thanks for having me. I'm super happy to be back in South Africa. I haven't been here for over a year, so I'm like this banana on my face because I came in finally. So just a short introduction. My name is, as you can read, obviously, Tomasz Szunański. Just call me Tom. I own a company in Poland. That's called Software Mill, where I am the CEO. My first big client was actually from South Africa. It was FNB. I used to work for it for a couple of years in Joburg, actually 4. At the end of my journey with FNB, I was an application architect there in one of the great places to work at FNB. So I was just, okay, never mind. Yeah, I have a couple of questions for you first. So who owns a company here? It can be like a sole purpose. So you have one. Okay, everyone would like to have a company at some point of his life. Yeah? Hands up? Okay, that's good, that's good. Okay, so I'm gonna tell you kind of journey that our company went. We started in 2009, so we just turned 7. And at the beginning, we did how we were taught at the schools. So we had owners, and owners were responsible for everything, and so on. And then we kind of changed, and I'm gonna tell you why and how we did it. But first, I'm gonna talk about people in general. So basically, these are cubicles. Who works in a similar environment? Maybe an open space, but still, none of you? You're super lucky. Okay, cool. So that's really good. Probably the reason is that people who come to meet us are at the good places because they choose for the best. But the problem not how we are taught at schools and how we're taught even at universities is that people are more treated as resources. So there's these huge corporations, and everyone is a gear in a big machine, and he's supposed to do what he's told. So he has some role, and he's supposed to do it good, but don't ask too many questions and so on. Funny thing is that, I don't know if you know that, but most secular educational systems that we kind of know now, so the prime education type, formed after the, I think, Jesuits, they are called in English, were forced to stop doing primary schools in Europe, and it was in 18th century, basically where the Industrial Revolution started. So you can imagine what kind of ideal worker at time of the in the revolution was. And unfortunately, that kind of educational system hasn't changed much in many places. It's changing, but very slowly. So the question for us is, are we the engineers, the developers, or maybe humans in general, the thinkless creatures that should be just doing what they're told to do? Or maybe we should get creative. You probably know that guy, and he's sitting somewhere in his cubicle, already retired, just waiting for the proper age to come so he can go and play golf. He doesn't like his job too much. He's just doing it to have the money. But he's not here because he doesn't go to meet us. So this is a blue screen of death, and I'm having a Mac, so something's wrong. This is because you talked about .NET too much. Okay, let's try a different adapter.
We're back on.
Hey, we're back on. Okay.
Shall we try?
Yeah, we'll see. I'll just
Stop
I'll talk Swift now. Swift. Okay, so this is the organizational chart that you probably are familiar with. So basically, that's how the big companies work. There are kind of silos that are responsible for different parts of the companies, and there's someone in charge on top of them. But the problem is that people at these low levels are not really necessarily connected to other people at similar levels at other silos. And it kind of doesn't work that good. So I think it was 2013, so we were 4 at the time. We were 20 people at the time, and the managing of the company became a little bit cumbersome because we would have to make all the decisions that were to be made as the owners. There were 4 of us at the time. So we had things like hardware decisions. So imagine you have a team, and the team is working for a client, and they're writing some software. And the client says, we need an iPad version of it. So they need to buy an iPad just to test the stuff. There are emulators, but they also like to play with the iPad. So they come to me as the owner and they tell me, listen, Tomek, we have this client and he wants an iPad version. Can we buy an iPad? Who am I there to forbid that? I'd be stupid if I told them not to, because we might lose a client and lose a lot more money than just some stupid iPad. The same with like old laptop. So he's working on his laptop and it's becoming really, really slow. So he knows that if he changes it to something newer, he'll get more productive. And he comes to me again. Can I buy myself a new laptop? I'd be an idiot again if I told him not to, because I want him to be as productive as possible, right? Or we are a remote company, fully remote. There's no office that we work together in. So sometimes the communication can get difficult. And because our clients are mostly abroad, sometimes you just need to get on an expensive flight and go to the client to discuss stuff with him and to make the communication better and straighten things up, maybe, because something's going wrong. So again, they would come to me and ask if they can go there. Who would I be if I told them not to? We could lose a client if they don't. So of course, go on the flight. We started thinking, what should we do? And initially, the idea was that we will have to introduce some middle management, right? Because that's how companies operate. But at the same time, I was lucky to read a few articles about different companies who are doing it a little different. So that was kind of inspirational to me. So I'm gonna just tell you quickly what I read, and then what approach did we take. So who knows that company, Valve? Hands up. Okay. The guys who did Half-Life first, but are more known now for the Steam, which is the biggest distribution platform for games and programs. And the guy who started it, his name is Gabe Newell. And before starting his own company, he worked for Microsoft. And just after Microsoft released Windows 95, they commenced a big research in the United States to basically check if people are really using Windows 95 or are they still on 3.11 or whatever versions they could have been. So it was a very expensive research survey. They could have done it. It was Microsoft, and the results were very interesting. So yes, Windows 95 was the most used operating system in the States, and probably that means also in the world. But number one was Doom, and who's played Doom? Okay, Doom was made by a company, ID Software, that was 15 people top. Not max, total. So he asked himself a question. How come a game that is done by 15 people and it's not even in retail, because they wouldn't sell in shops, they would just sell in like bulletins and all that pre-internet stuff that was there in the mid-90s, was the number one installed software on the computers across the country, not the operating system. And that made him thinking. And once he got a lot of money from Microsoft, because he was just a senior developer there, he started his own company, and he decided to run just things differently. And basically how now works with Valve is that when someone is hired for the company, he's not hired for a specific project, but he's hired for his skill set. They're very rich, so they can do it. If they think someone might be of use, they just hire him. But now it is the responsibility of the person who was hired to go around the company and kind of advertise himself. What is he good for? What are his skill sets? And the people on the projects will either accept him, take him to the team or not. And the big thing about Valve is that there are no silos in the organization, but there are teams that are responsible for the product. And this is from A to Z. So they're basically responsible for the invention first, then making the product, then selling the product, customer relations, and so on and so on. So the team has to consist of all the people that can do all the stuff. The office they have is very the plastic, so that you can move the chairs, you can create rooms in the office space, and move the tables and everything so that the team can sit together and work on the products. So that was Valve, and you might be thinking, okay, that's fine, these are probably super bright people, the best on the market you can get, and they're very aware of what they are capable of and so on, but what about the rest of the population that works in simpler jobs? So this is actually something that blew my mind. Anyone heard about a company called Morningstar? I bet you do. So this is the biggest tomato processing company in the US, and they basically, I think that their main product is just tomato concentrate, and then they sell to Heinz that can make ketchup out of it, or the tomato sauce, I call it here. So now this company is kind of on all levels of tomato industry. So first, seeding the tomatoes and picking the tomatoes, transporting the tomatoes, processing the tomatoes, all about tomatoes. And once you hire at the company, you kind of write yourself a mission. What is your mission that you have to do? So might be, if you're picking tomatoes, probably you'll have to just pick them as much as possible in a period of time. If you're an engineer on the processing units, then probably you'll make as much concentrate as possible, and so on and so on. So mission is one thing, but then the execution is very interesting, because people have full financial responsibility, but also they can do whatever they want. So if you are a truck driver and you decide that this truck you're using is not enough, then you just go and buy yourself a new truck for $40,000 something. And if you're responsible on the, for example, the engineer on the processing plant, or whatever it's called, I'm not really specialized in tomatoes, but then you have to make sure that you have everyone on the team that you need, and just do your stuff. Maybe go to training, all the things that are needed for the most productive work you can do. Now you might be thinking, so if they can make those financial decisions, why is the company still on the market? Why isn't it bankrupted? Well, how come they didn't make the wrong decisions? And the thing is that once people can do it, they kind of get responsible about what they're doing. And also, because they're working in teams, the team also kind of is the mechanism that secures company for making bad decisions from inside. Because if you're on a team that is responsible for collecting tomatoes, then you'll make sure that everything's running smoothly. If someone starts doing something stupid, you're just gonna make him stop, basically, or her. So having that in mind, and knowing that this is, I think, 300 people company or something like that, with all people from different seasonal workers to engineers, I thought that maybe it can work for everyone. So then was us. I met with my co-owners. We closed ourselves in a room for a whole day, and we started thinking, how can it work for us? And we came up with all these flip charts with all these formulas, how the thing's gonna be done, and so on and so on. And then we realized one thing. We're over-engineering and trying to micromanage how the company should be self-managing. So it's not gonna work for sure. So we just threw it away. And we decided we're gonna do it differently. Let's make like a first base, like a blueprint of how the company should operate. And then as it goes, we're gonna change it and improve it. Or maybe if it doesn't work, we just get back to whatever we thought initially when you will introduce middle management. So this is our modus operandi. So first of all, the decisions should be made at the lowest possible level. If the decision concerns you, the developer or a graphic designer or something, you should make the decision. If you're not sure, don't bring it to the whole company. Maybe ask a friend from your team or some other friend if that's a good idea or not. If it's on the project level, then the project team and so on and so on. And then if it really touches the whole company, the whole company must kind of respond to that. Then for the money, we just make a simple formula that 15% of all the money that comes to the company goes to the owners, and the rest is going to be managed by the people, in which we're going to have similar votes as, so 1 vote for me, 1 vote for everyone in the company. Plus, of course, we kind of introduce that save button that we have a right of veto as the owners. The main reason for that is that we are in the court responsible for our financial decisions, right? So we're gonna respond to anything that happens badly at the end of the day. So we put it there from the start. We haven't used it yet so far, and I hope we'll never use it. And then that everyone, so you had a question? No. Everyone in the company should have access to all available information. Because if you think about it, you cannot make any financial decisions if you do not know what's the state of the company financial-wise. So, and if you know what's the state of the company financial-wise, then you end up with just full access to all the records. And full access to all the records means you will know all the wages in the company, including mine, including everyone else. And that is going to be something interesting in a couple slides. And then the last thing is there's no blaming. The presumption is at the time of the decision making that was the best decision to be made. So otherwise people would be afraid to make any decisions. So you made that decision, okay, we fully support you. Maybe we know it was the wrong decision after the time has passed, but we learned from it, that's it. Okay, now we thought about the problems we might have. Well, the biggest problem obviously was the different wages. Till we opened everything, the wage was only a matter of negotiation, basically. If someone was from a small city, as I said, we're fully remote, so we have people from all across Poland. Someone from a small city, he just asked for less. If someone is living in the capital, obviously, the wages are bigger there, so he asked for more. That's not very fair, and we knew that's going to be a problem, because there were people hired in the similar time, doing similar stuff, but they had different wages, like by 30% even. And then how to make people kind of do their job, because at the end of the day they're hired as developers, graphic designers, and UX specialists and so on. And they obviously, because there is going to be some company ruling that the company has to make, it will take some extra time. How to make them focus on their job first and then run the company. And how they can then see the benefits. So after we told them about these simple rules, how it's going to work, we asked them these 4 questions. As I said, you want to ask something? Yeah. Sir? No. As I said, the financials were closed, so they didn't know these. They didn't know what the rate for the client was. And then we asked them if they would like to differentiate the wages in the company. We had some idea initially that maybe we'll just make a flat salary for everyone. But then we dropped it, but at the time we were thinking, so that's why we asked this question, and then how would you do it? And what are the fears you have? And the fears they answered was, first, the decision-making paralysis, because if you have the full company being able to make decisions, then probably they'll just clash. And they will have no time to work, so that's something we thought about as well. and that the teams will start competing. The last thing was that they just didn't, the competition thing, I think they just didn't realize that it's not going to be kind of fighting for budgets in the company. But that's what they said. The interesting part is that with the rate for the client, even if it was like twice what they would get in their wage, they were just off by like $20 per day. So that was kind of surprising to us. But that's good. They weren't very surprised. And what they asked us is, okay, this new way is overwhelming and everything. We are excited about it, but we don't want to do everything from start. So let's first try with just the decision making on maybe the lower level, and then we'll try to do it on the higher level. And please do not open the wages yet. That's actually what they asked. So we decided, okay, fine. We're gonna do it one step at a time. And we did. So for a couple of weeks we would operate with just kind of categorized views of what are the states of the finances in the company. So they would know basically how much money we have on the account and how much money was spent on different things like wages or social meetings, things like that, and how much money we got from the clients. But in those couple of weeks we hired 2 guys. And those 2 guys were kind of hired in a new way. So the full salary negotiations was already done with the people from the company. So everyone knew their wages. So we had 2 guys that everyone knew their wages, and the rest they didn't know. So I said enough is enough, and I sent an email to everyone. Today at 12, I'm going to send an Excel spreadsheet to everyone with all the wages. If anyone has something against that, then drop me a line. No one dared to drop me a line. And I'm pretty sure they were all kind of interested. They feared that, but they were interested. And then there were some problems that I'm going to tell you about. And the first problem was the money. I sent that Excel spreadsheet, and for 2 weeks, nothing. No comments, good, bad, nothing. So the more time passed, I was worried, and I just was expecting something's going to blow up. And then bam! So people kind of realized that the money is so differentiated with people working on similar projects, doing the same stuff with similar skill set. Just main reason was geographics and the negotiation skills. So they were mad, and they started to kind of be all explosive about that. It was a very difficult time for the company, I can tell you. And the problem was that the decision-making paralysis we feared, and this is something that touches whole company, right? The wages. So everyone was interested to take part in the discussions. The decision-making paralysis was there because we decided that okay, so the wages are differentiated. We cannot just flatten them out just overnight because we don't have enough money on the account. So what we need to do is we need to come up with a kind of system that will gradually go toward more equal wages. And so 2 things was, how do we differentiate the wages? And secondly, like in general, what are going to be the rules of salaries? And then how are we going to get there in due time? So the problem was that every time we would come up with a solution that we thought that everyone agrees on, someone would be like, no, it's a bad idea. So and what was enough was one person loud enough to just scrap everything. So what we did then is working groups and advices. But first, working groups. Working groups, we decided to just put in what the Greeks have figured out that democracy works. We just wanted to, okay, let's try with that. So when we have a big decision to make that will touch everyone, we don't just throw it at the company because you know how it's going to end. So we look for volunteers that think that might work out a solution for that problem. And once they're finished with their solution or solutions, we just make a voting. And if the majority accepts that, then it passes as a new law. That's it. So that worked well. We finally came up to the system of salaries. And by the end of the day, what we did is that basing on two factors the salaries are made. One is the kind of role you have. So we have like 3 or 4 roles. There's developers, obviously. There's administration part. There's graphic designers, marketing, so forth. And they have their basic salary set up to something. And then the longer you work for the company, the higher your salary gets. And after 5 years, it stops raising. And that's it. That was the easiest, and we all agree to that. So advices was another thing, because we had this kind of plague of people just throwing advice bombs. So there's a problem, and someone is busy with his code and doing his code, refactoring all TTT, all the fancy stuff. And then he just sees someone ask a question. How do we do? And most actually the least meaningful the decision was to be made, the more people you get giving advice. Like, what color of the Mac we should do for the conference? Green, yellow. So the least meaningful the decision is, the more ideas you get from all the people. So he said, okay, if you're giving such an advice, you're committing to executing it after people agree. So then that dropped suddenly. And sometimes people just forget that, and bam, they're gone. They have to do something. So this is good. Highly advise that. Commitment. Okay, one thing that we had to kind of introduce is the Steve Jobs kind of role if we're working on a product. Because if we're working on a product, we found out that it was, at least for us, impossible to run it by a democracy. There has to be a dictator that will just tell how the stuff's going to be. And he has to have a vision. And basically, the democracy ends up after the company agrees that someone's idea for the product is good. Then usually he is starts to be responsible for making the product, and then he just runs it. No votes whatsoever. And the only voting he can get is maybe shut it down, because we lost too much money on it already. That's how it. Then the clients. The clients, we obviously send a communication after we transformed to the clients that from now on, you don't need to talk with the management of the official management of the company, but all the discussions can be made with the team you're working on, and that is both HR, the finances, negotiations of the contract, and so on. Now the problem is that some people just want to talk with the CEOs, and of course you have to respect that. They're clients, so they can do whatever they want to an extent. But the problematic part is when they're trying to put on a pressure on the team for doing something via the CEO. And it happens a couple of times for me. And what I do is I always respond. I try not to undermine their decisions. I always respond that, listen, this is the team. They've been working on your product for X amount of time, and they have the best knowledge out of the people that I know. So I'm going to agree with their decision, because I have no idea what that's all about. And that usually works. Sometimes it doesn't. Maybe sometimes you have to say goodbye to the client, but that's my rule. And also, and the biggest problem, I think, with introducing the transparent/flat company is that you have to kind of convince the people that from now on they should start making the decisions. Because every now and then someone comes to you and asks, can I buy myself a new mouse or something silly as that, like $100 or something. And then you just have to bash. And you say, what do you think? Do you really need to ask me? And so on and so on. And then keep kind of coaching people that the questions should be asked at the lowest possible level and answered. And now, what are the results? So, we started in May 2013. In 14, we doubled the company profit. In 15, we quadrupled it, the one that was doubled already. Then we grew from 20 to 40 people. And actually, that was on purpose. At some point, the company said, we don't want to hire anymore because we're 30. I think we were 30 at the time. We kind of started losing that friendly atmosphere in the company because it's growing too much. Let's stop it. And I didn't like that as an owner, let me tell you. But I didn't veto that decision. But after, I think, 3 times they had to refuse the client. That was an interesting project. They had to refuse because we didn't have anyone to work on the project. They resumed the hiring. So now we're 40. Now they're starting saying the same, but we'll see how it goes. So the new clients were coming in still, and what I'm proud of myself is that only 4 people left since 2013 in 3 years, over 3 years, which I think for IT is not that bad, because people come and go all the time in different companies. So HR is solely run by people from the company. There's no owners. Well, sometimes I may be reviewing someone's code or something, but it's solely run by the guys. They come up with their own bots for doing the HR on Slack and sending the surveys and sending the home assignments and so on. So there's a shameless plug. There's hrrobot.hr, which is basically a product we're trying to do out of this bot. It's not finished yet, but you can check it out. Also, the sales is done by people. And this is very important because no one in their right mind likes to write offers or prepare like technical demos for the client and so on. So the good thing is that everyone that is not busy with their project, because sometimes projects finish and people are on hold for some time. Now, if someone is free, then he can jump in and manage the leads and talk with the clients and negotiate and everything. So that boring stuff that is about actually making money in the end of the day is managed by everyone who is just not doing anything. Or maybe it's just free because the client is not very time consuming. And what is most important is that new ideas come in from people. And we have company-wide retrospectives, maybe every quarter of year. And if something is not working on, people come to us and tell, and they kind of recognize the problems and they deal with them together with us, obviously. But they kind of, I think, just feel attached to whatever is going on. So they want to make it better, and that works. And this is an interesting thing that was initiated by one of the guys we had. And this is a CUBE satellite that's going to be launched in 2018. He basically approached some of his friends at Warsaw University of Technology who are creating this CUBE satellite, and we volunteered to help them. This is why I have with you board spaceship running your code, because we actually wrote some software that's going to be sent to space. And we use it as marketing, but that was something fun to work on. And solely initiated by people, not the company. And we came to a point where maybe it's not very something to brag about, but people themselves fired someone. Sounds bad, but it takes a lot of maturity for you to make a decision as a team that someone has to be let go. Usually that's the sad responsibility of the owners. But I'm pretty happy that we came to a point where they can make that decision. If someone is kind of harming the way we work, then you should be let go. And they recognize that, and they can action upon that. Okay, so last year I kind of asked for feedback from people, and what do they like or not like? Maybe not. Actually, that was what did they like about this Slack company. So they like the full trust that we put in them. The second point is something that I can sign with my both hands. That once you go full transparent, with all the wages open and everything, it's kind of becoming so natural to you that you start asking yourself, why is it closed ever in the companies? And I think the answer is that it's just a tool to have some kind of control over people, because the closed wages are usually the source of gossips. Who has been in a company that where had closed wages, but actually everyone knew how much money at least one person had, and that was the one who had the most or something. So it's just anti-human, I think. And then there are some other like risks of having idiot boss. I just okay. Also important is that I think the management of clients from A to Z is also very important, because the people who are doing sales, they start from the leads, and then they prepare an offer. Then there's a demo we do for the clients for like 2 weeks. We work with him to check if both we are a good fit for him and he is a good fit for us. And then so they fully kind of attached to it. And also the clients are happier because they can solve the problem with just the people they work with every day. As I said, the project is kind of owned by people, so they're not first to just run away from something that is difficult to fix because they built from start. And the company is a living organism, so it can adapt quickly. So that's it from me. If you have any questions, then I'm here.